helps in shaping our identity. Remember, today, if at all we have an identity, it's simply because it was that heritage in the society. Do you have, and that's more important. It's not simply taking in consideration the heritage. Our expression of this identity shows others what we value. What we value. Our identity. That means my disposition should definitely carry the characteristics of Jesus Christ. When they see me on the street, they should say, this man is a gentleman. I mean, it all depends on how you walk. It all depends on what kind of standards you maintain in order to members. What are our heritage? Secondly, our heritage provides clues to our past, how our society has evolved. In place of society, our heritage provides clues to our past, how our Seventh-day Adventist church has evolved. That's heritage. It helps us examine our history and traditions and enables us to develop awareness about ourselves. It's very much true. It's not that you simply, it's not that way. That's not religion. What does it say? It helps us examine our history and traditions and enables us to develop awareness about ourselves. You need to know what you are, who you are in the society. Ourselves. You need to know what you are, who you are in the society. And that's what heritage does to us. And finally, it helps us understand and explain why we are the way we are. It says it helps us understand and explains why we are the way we are. You get my point? It's very much important who you are and why we are like this. Why we are like this is very much important. Don't you think so? If I have to ask you, why are you like this, and what are things that you would like to say, I'm sure you would like to say a lot of things. You would like to say a lot of things. All say as Seventh-day Adventist people, we worship on the seventh day. Don't you think this is one way we can always project ourselves in the community? Let us remember these 4 points. If these 4 points are there with us, definitely you are part of that church heritage. History. Let's go to the history. AD 64 to 1798. That means almost first century. The first century, I'm going to go a little deep into our history, but in a nutshell. Nothing deep because this time doesn't permit. In order for me to speak about 2024 years history, it's not possible within half an hour or 40 minutes. We will what exactly has happened in the history. 64 to 1790, early church and dark ages. Early church and dark ages. You know what happened? Persecution of Christians was carried by Emperor Nero of Rome, July AD 64. In this year, Emperor Nero, if you have to look into one person on the history or on the planet Earth who was the most heinous and who was the most cruelest king. Nero, you study his history, you will be stunned to find out what exactly he has done to the humankind. He had no respect for the humankind. The kind of strategies that he has used in order to harass people, in order to assassinate people, And this man, in order to trouble Christians, what he did? On July, he set fire to Rome. Finds pleasure in Rome being burnt. In what? Rome. In July AD 64. And then he even took pleasure in watching those people burning in the fire. And that was the kind of a king Nero was. And many of the Christians have gone into the catacombs. What are nothing but in those days they had graveyard underneath the dead. And catacombs were Nero's persecution. They ran to this. One side there is a threat of Nero, and one side they are still praising God. That is the way the disciples were put to death. Disciples, one was killed upside down. One was cut into pieces. The general, what did he do? He went around Jerusalem. He besieged the city of Jerusalem. He encamped around the Jerusalem, and then what was waiting for get into Jerusalem and kill all. It has to be fulfilled. And it was Titus, the general who came and then he besieged the city of Jerusalem. And history again talks and says that this man also purposed to working training institution. According to the statistics organization,